Howdy y'all, we got Bulldog on the channel. This is a regular customer, but we haven't seen this vehicle yet. It is a 2011 Toyota Highlander, 3.5 in it. And you would already know what's wrong with it if you had smell-o-vision. She stopped in and said, my car's making a whining noise. And I went out there, I didn't hear a whining noise, but when I walked up to it, oh, wow. Pop the hood, let's check the alternator. And sure enough, I popped the hood. Because as soon as I said alternator, because it smells like electrical burning, oh, and she ran and shut it off. Well, I started it back up to listen for the alternator, and it wasn't whining anymore. But it was smoking. Popped the hood, it's just rolling smoke off the alternator. Now, brand new battery, which we see that a lot. You have a battery that shorts internally, it will smoke the alternator because the alternator is just charging everything it can. The battery's taking everything it can, but it's not charging anything. So she shut it off while she was waiting on her husband to come pick her up. Comes inside, 10 minutes. Goes back out there, battery's stone dead. You know, something burned up big time. Might end up having to warranty this battery too. But the alternator is already toast. All the magic smoke went away. We watched it go. It just... So this one's not the 1 hour job that we like to see. It calls for nearly 4 hours. It is down there. This is going to make a little fun. You're supposed to pull the fan, the cooling fan up here. The battery box, all that kind of stuff, so that you can get the cooling fan out. The thermostat neck will come off so that you can get to the alternator that's behind it. Convenient. Before you can get the coolant neck off, you have to pull a pulley that's underneath here because it blocks the coolant neck from coming back off the studs. Yeah, it's just, you're thinking ahead. Everything looks pretty straightforward on it. It's just going to be a little time consuming. Calls for almost 4 hours. We'll see what we can get done, but I need to get it apart tonight. It is 20 minutes till closing, but I'm just going to be here until I get it off of here so that we know what to get, because they offer 3 different alternators. There's a 100 amp, there's a 130 amp, and there's a 150 amp. They are all identical. There is nothing different about the mounting, about the charge wire, about the plug-in for the controls. Somewhere on the alternator there is a stencil of what amperage it is. 2 of them they have in stock, 1 of them they don't. The 150 amp they don't. I don't think it's going to be that, because that's supposedly a Japanese build. I doubt very seriously this is a Japanese build. We're in Missouri, so I'm going to get this thing ripped apart, and I'll check in with you periodically. Battery's pulling some serious amperage. You do not want to leave the thing dead. That will kill it. It is hot to the touch. We're running it on low. We had to get this thing in here. We had to push it in the door. Couldn't even jump start it out there. It wouldn't. You couldn't put enough power into it to get the engine to run and stay running. So it was a serious issue. You leave it out there, leave it dead, it'll freeze the battery up. So we got it inside. Got this valence all off. Pull the battery so you have enough room behind here to get this shroud out. goes across here. There's some stuff that feels really unnecessary to me, but this is how it's designed. At least it can come out without pulling the motor, unlike the water pump, which that you can get it out too, but it's not fun. I got some on my channel about the water pumps on these things. Now here is why I look things up first, kind of look what I'm, getting into, and it looks like a lot of work to do this, but you can see all of the room that this gives you. And here's the alternator. That's 5 inches. Maybe I'm not a good judge of distance, but you can pull that alternator sideways and come right out. Oh, maybe I don't have to pull that thermostat? I don't know. I'll look down there. Maybe I don't have to pull that thermostat off. Maybe I can just drop it out of the way. So sometimes trying to do it the easier way is much harder. It made all kinds of room in there for us to be able to pull that alternator out. Give us all kinds of room to work with. I drained the antifreeze, pulled the upper hose, unplugged the wiring going across it, and just slid that thing right out. So, check your procedure before you start. Sometimes they give you a procedure. This one gave me a procedure. I've had others that were just as involved as this, and it said remove alternator. So, that one was a Hyundai, I think, and this is a Toyota. There is a huge difference in your manufacturers too. Some actually build something like, you might need to take it apart. But then the guy that did that stuff, they didn't put the water pump on it. Anyway, back to it. Okay, you can see it right there. There is another bolt on a bracket. Another bolt on a bracket mounted to the block on the back side of the alternator. I got the 2 bolts out of the front side. I did it without pulling that thermostat housing and without pulling the pulley. We'll see if that alternator comes out. All right, I think all the bolts are out. Find somewhere safe to pry on it. Kind of fun with all the wiring and everything that wants to be in the way. There we go. Clips in the back of it. See any? Out there, yep, there's a clip. Here, show that. There's a clip on that bracket right there for the wiring. There's a clip right there on the wiring. So if you jack around on it, you're going to end up breaking it. I'll release that. Ta-da. Be careful as you're coming out because everything's catching and you're liable to slip and bump the radiator. And then you're gonna have a bad time. There we go. Pull this bracket off right here.
You have 12?
Yep, 12.
I've got a good eye for sizes.
There's a little ledge on it so that it'll keep that thing straight. That way you can put it on the new alternator before you put it in. Now let's see if we can find which alternator this is.
The magic kind?
Yeah, magic happens in here, but all the magic smoke leaked out. See? Here. Smell this.
Yum.
Whenever somebody says smell this, it's usually not a good thing.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know what alternator we need, but you know, it looks like it burned off the tag.
Okay, the only identifying mark on this alternator is the tag, which is melted. So, it's right there. I even tried a CAT scan and couldn't find anything out. Yeah. Now, from the pictures, looking at the back of the alternator and seeing the diodes inside there, we believe this is a 130. So that's what we're going to go with. I even looked it up on the dealer's website and it said, I don't know, 100, 130, 150 by the VIN number. So that's the aggravating thing. Whenever your identifying marks are just gone. But it looks like it's a 130, judging off of the diodes and just how they look in a picture. I hate the guessing game. Okay, we're going to load test this battery. Charged it up last night. There's no information on it. There's no way to know what kind of cranking amp it has, so I'm just going to guess 650. Okay. I wouldn't want to put one on there that's going to be shorted out. We charged it last night for a couple hours, you know, let it set overnight, and I turned it on and I thought, well, shoot, I'd better check it before I let it charge for very long, so I shut it off. And it's up, so it's probably a 700 cranking amp or 750, but I checked it at 650. Just as long as it didn't have an internal short in it, it would have been dead. Okay, parts finally showed up for this thing, and I've got it installed down there. That's pretty straightforward. I'd say that bolt goes up against the block. That's going to be fine. But it does have a lock on the back side of it to line it up. Got the belt on there. I checked the belt and it was good. Go ahead and try to get all your bolts started before you tighten anything up. And I start at the top here because that's the saddle. Tighten that one up, then the one on the bottom, then the one on the block. Now, I got all the wires hooked up back to it because I got room here to do everything. Put the clips back into place. Looming back into place. Now we're going to put the cooling fans and everything back in here and sew it up. those little saddles get clipped in down there on the bottom. I was scooted to one side half an inch. If your bolts don't line up, then you're not lined up. Unless, you know, somebody did a Bo-Duke-Yeehaw and landed wrong. I've run into that several times. Okay, now during your reassembly, I've got the hose hooked back up here, the wiring run back up and plugged into the cooling fan module over here, and clip back into place all the way over here. So clip back into place all the way over here. Yeah, that's what I meant. And I've got this air tube back on. Pay attention to the order when you take things apart, because it'll help you in reassembly. You won't end up having to do things twice. You know, you take off the battery and the upper and the lower, because this bolts underneath the battery box, your hoses, then this, then the alternator. You take this out, you got all kinds of room over there for the alternator. You know, and when you're putting back together, sometimes you're going to do something and then you screw up and say, oh, I should not have done this first, and then you have to take it back apart. So pay attention to how it comes apart, look at things, and figure it out in your head before you do that. So I got this back in, throw the battery box back down here, and make sure that this is all ready to go, and I'll reinstall the battery. It's all charged up, and we'll fire this thing off, test our voltage, take it up for a test drive. This is a job that can be done in book time or less if you know what you're doing and you don't try to take shortcuts. There we go, charging good. So we're going to take it out and do a test drive with it and check it again when we get back. Alright, now back here behind the motor mount, it's the motor mount right there in front of the engine, there is a bleed. You can hear it whistling a little bit, but I've got my coolant in the funnel and it's gurgling. You just wait until you get coolant right there. There we go, coolant. Back her up. And see how much will still go down in there. These with the 90 degree on top of the radiator are terrible to get full. This is a godsend whenever you got that problem. Okay, we're back from our test drive, and we're running at just under 14 volts, so looks like this one's good to go. Test drive went good. Looks like our radiator's full. We'll give a customer a call, let them know it's done. That's a pretty quick turnaround for a large job, and it was pretty straightforward for a large job. Yes, it's absolutely something you can do in your driveway if you have the mechanical skill. So this one was successful. We're going to get the customer down here and get it paid out. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.